So my name is Susanne Lynch and I'm Head of Medicines Management for Southport and Formby CCG and South Sefton CCG. I'm a pharmacist and I'm responsible for medicines across Sefton. The CCG by commission the majority of the healthcare services for its residents, and I'm responsible for ensuring safe prescribing and safe use of medicines. So I found out about my MBE via an email. Initially, I opened the email and read it and thought that it was a scam email or a practical joke. I wasn't convinced at all. I kept looking at it and thinking it can't be real. So what I decided to do was I looked into it a bit further and I actually phoned the telephone number, and a very nice lady answered and explained it was the Cabinet Office. And I explained that I thought I'd been sent an incorrect email or a practical joke. And she informed me that I hadn't, due to COVID, they weren't writing out this year. And so the email was official and congratulated me. And very slowly it started to sink in there. But I have to say, even up until I saw the list online released on the 30th of December, I still wasn't fully convinced. So I think initially I can say I was just in shock. I was just in a daze about it. I could not process that somebody had, put me forward, and also then that I'd got through the various stages and, was going to receive an MBE. So it was complete and utter shock, mixed with real pride, as much for pharmacy, because during the whole of my profession, but particularly during COVID, myself and all my pharmacy colleagues, and that's pharmacists I work with in community pharmacy, other clinical commissioning groups, hospital trusts, the chief pharmacist, everybody has worked so hard and close together, helping each other, supporting each other, that I just thought it was amazing that pharmacy was being recognised for our part in what we'd done to, get us through professionally, but also to help patients during this really hard time. So when the pandemic started way back, we went from being a team of pharmacists, pharmacy technicians and admin support who ordinarily would be out reviewing patients in their own homes, in care homes, out in GP practices, meeting with prescribers, nurses, talking to them about their prescribing, to I quickly realised that we needed to change the way we were supporting. So for us, physically, that meant me pulling the staff into the CCG headquarters, and being given that safe place to work, but we could continue to do our clinical support to patients and the rest of primary care. And that was very different for staff members, used to being out and about, to coming into the office every day, but it did mean that we could continue to support our residents and patients. And what it also meant was that because everything was changing at such a fast pace, I'm sure people remember that, we could change very quickly what we were putting in place to support patients. So early on, we identified that patients were worrying about prescriptions and ordering them. So we put in place very quickly that we would arrange post-dated prescriptions for them, so that they would have the comfort of knowing their prescriptions for the next 3 to 4 months have been arranged. They didn't need to panic. We did that for just under about 8,000 patients across Sefton, working with the GPs. We went on at the same time of that thinking, electronic prescribing, we are good at that in Sefton. Most of our patients get their prescriptions sent electronically, but we still had some patients that had remained having their prescription on paper. So started to think, ideally we don't want those patients walking to the surgery, going in, the footfall. So then we started to contact patients we identified that weren't having their prescriptions sent electronically, and we spoke to about 1,000 patients there across Sefton and set up their nominated pharmacy. That was really nice piece of work, because what it did was it gave us the opportunity to ask them how they were coping with the current climate. These were often quite vulnerable patients, and so we were able to signpost them, say to the local authority, if they said they were struggling around getting food or struggling collecting their medicines. So that was a really nice piece of work. I think as things progressed then, there was a lot of planning around making medicines available for the symptom management of COVID, and also for the end of life scenarios, which is really important throughout, not just because of COVID. And we put in place, and we have a large number of care homes in Sefton, and I wanted that if there were patients with symptoms of COVID, that they could access the medicines really quickly without delay. So we worked with all the care homes and the council, and we reviewed individual patients, a couple of thousand patients we reviewed, to check that they were suitable to receive those drugs. And then we set up some processes that the care homes had those stocks available. And that worked really well, because that gave me an opportunity to work with my community pharmacy colleagues in Sefton, and we commissioned a couple of them to hold those drugs that we wanted on site, always have stock available, and we set up a rapid 1-hour delivery if there was the clinical need to get those medicines out quickly. So that was a lot of assurance to have those systems in place, and that things just evolved as new guidance came out. We looked at it and considered, right, what do we need to put in place to make this work? I did a lot of work with the sites that were supporting patients with COVID, again, making sure they had access to the medicines, looking how they were prescribing. So it was really across all the different pieces of work, we managed to have an input into it, which was really good, whilst at the same time supporting individual patients. So some of our other sort of business as usual work continued. We'd set up a hub a couple of years ago where we review and do look at all the discharges, patients discharged from hospital. Obviously we had patients discharged that were recovering from COVID, and it was great having that opportunity to talk to patients, check how they were doing with their medicines. So I'm really lucky as a head of medicines management in Sefton that I just received so much support from directors and the accountable officer in the CCG around believing in medicines management being so important, and that's been growing for a number of years, and it's just enabled me to grow the team and sort of go from strength to strength with a high number of prescribers, and really adapt the work we do to meet the needs of patients and primary care. And one of the key things that's happened is when primary care network pharmacists came out, I had a concern that if it wasn't all joined up together in some way, then what we would achieve would be fragmented as a group of pharmacists. And I was really pleased when the CCG and our primary care networks in Sefton all agreed for us to employ the primary care network pharmacists, and they're part of my team, they're integrated with my team. It's the same job description, the same title, they are just one of the team, we all do the same thing. And what that meant was, when we've had to deal with something like a pandemic and now with the vaccinations, I've got enough staff that I can, draw on and get working together all on the same piece of work. And that's why we've managed to pull off the scale of the work that we've achieved, because of the numbers, and it's really, really worked. So I don't think there'll be any leader or manager out there that hasn't said this has been a really challenging time. I think because you're constantly striving to achieve the absolute best you can for the patients and residents, but at the same time you're very aware of the welfare of your own staff and team. I think the pandemic has affected people in very different ways, and I think it's just having it on your radar, certainly for staff members, people working with you, and even yourself, maybe how you're reacting to things. And you think you might be dealing with lockdown, different structures to your day, not having your normal routines, but then it can suddenly hit you. And we could see that with patients as well when we were talking to them. So to me, I think I tend to be somebody that's very aware of people around me anyway. I would say I'm a people person, but I think that would make a huge difference to the team getting through what we have done and achieving what we've done, because it is about supporting each other and also that wider pharmacy team. I would say I've become a lot closer with some of my chief pharmacist colleagues. Just being able to talk through, maybe with other leaders, we're finding this hard, getting our heads around things. It was really that support has made the difference as a leader. I mean, in my world of pharmacy across sort of Pan Mersey, I had very good relationships, but that relationship has widened now. So I was already involved at a Cheshire and Merseyside level, so had met colleagues, and then to be involved at a Northwest level during it with the Northwest Pharmacy Cell under the oversight of Karen O'Brien. It just widened that pool of colleagues, the phone of friends when you're considering something, and that is a positive to come out of it, because it's I would even say it's friendships that have come out of it through the close working and collaboration, and so I think that's really positive that it will support system working for the future, because I tend to find that if you've got good relationships, that is the foundation of it, and definitely relationships have been built. So our main focus at the moment, and will be for some time, is the COVID vaccination programme. We're right in the middle of it, which I'm really proud of. So we have currently 4 vaccination sites in Sefton in primary care groupings, and we are on every site when it's open 12 hours a day. That's been pharmacists and technicians, which they've just been amazing, because people will be aware that sites are open till 8 o'clock, sites are often open at weekends, and my staff have just been amazing at volunteering to work. Just so proud of them. Everything around the vaccine on site, keeping it at the right temperature, the fridges, we've supported the sites with that. It's hard work, but I think I can probably say the first day I was on site, it's probably one of my proudest moments to be involved. We've all said we'll never forget this in our career, being involved in the COVID vaccinations. I think a number of us have been quite emotional, as have a number of other staff on the sites, because it's just such a breakthrough and something we should be proud of.